Hi, everyone. Welcome to Shot Callers, a Storied Rivals podcast here on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network. Thanks so much for joining us. We're sitting down with high school football coaches previewing the 2023 season, and we're with Zanesville High School today in the Licking County League with head coach TJ Langermeier. Coach, thanks so much for joining the show today. Really appreciate your time chopping about some football here for 10 to 15 minutes. How are you? How's your summer going? This is your second off season now with a team last year that was on the younger side. So how has the offseason install been, having kind of a year under your belt and kind of getting things rolling for your second season?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to kind of have a year under my belt. Last year I got hired kind of that May range, so kind of got into the game a little late. So it was really good to have a complete offseason with the guys because that's kind of what we learned last year was, the weight room prevents injuries, gets us stronger, gets us ready to play on Friday nights. And I think that's something we were missing last year, and you could see by the end of the year. So it was great to get our core group into the weight room throughout the offseason, really focus on getting stronger. And again, like you were saying, kind of young last year, bring some guys back this year. So it was great to have an offseason to work with those guys. Let them have a chance to really dig in and dive into our culture. Really enjoyed that process. And this year again, with getting hired late last year, just kids having the ability to have a year in our system, terminology wise, offensively, defensively, special teams wise. So that was huge for us this year, where it's not square one again. Kids when we're talking offense, defense, special teams, they have an idea what we're talking about, a year under their belt. So we're bringing some guys back who got a lot of Friday night experience last year. Still some guys that are going to get that first experience this year, and so just trying to do our best throughout practice to put them in position so when the lights come on, they're ready to go and it's not too bright for them. So it's been fun this summer, especially with the ability to get those shoulder pads on a little sooner. So heading into this week, being able to throw the full pads on early, that's been huge. That's been huge for our development. There's no doubt about it.
So I want to dive into your second season here in a couple minutes, but I kind of want to go back to year one a little bit. And you took over from Chad Grandstaff, who, he's someone who's not only highly successful, but he was also very highly respected in the Zanesville area for, the better part of 15 plus years. But kind of take me back to when you were hired. Did you ever get to speak with Coach Grandstaff about the job? Were there any sort of, parting words of wisdom that he kind of left you with as the school transitioned from him as the head coach to then you taking over?
Yeah. So luckily, before I came to Zanesville, one of my previous stops, I was a wide receiver coach at Capitol University. My recruiting area is actually Southeast Ohio, so I was recruiting Zanesville during that time. Got to build a relationship with Coach Grandstaff through that. And while at Capitol, some of our key star players, Thomas Whibbler, quarterback there, is an all-time great here at Zanesville. From that 2013 Final Four team. One of my wide receivers in my wide receiver room was Dar Stanford from that 2013 Final Four team. So I had some great Zanesville connections prior and a little bit of a relationship with Coach Grandstaff, even prior to getting hired. So that was awesome. And then when I got the job, he was still working in the building as the principal at that time. So, he was very, very helpful throughout the process. When I originally got hired, any questions I had about traditions, how things worked, he was very upfront and answered all those. My first time coming down after my interview, seeing the stadium, seeing the office, seeing the locker room, stuff like that. That was Coach Grandstaff walking me through all that. And so he, being a Zanesville Blue Devil, really went down the list of traditions like, hey, you're not allowed changing this. Don't change this. Don't change that. So he was very helpful throughout that process. And, he's, the High School Football Coaches Association president. So like you said, well-respected throughout the coaching community. So again, saw him, he stopped by 30 Hills last week when we were running. So again, haven't talked to him in a while, but, I got that job, very helpful, very, very candid, honest, and open with me. And, was grateful for that. A lot of times that doesn't always happen with the new guy coming in. So Coach Grandstaff was a great help. And like you said, his tenure here speaks for itself. So some big shoes to fill. and again, very, 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 very helpful throughout the process.
Well, you're here now to create your own shoes and leave some new shoes behind. But it's funny you mentioned, like, when you're talking to him, you're like, don't change this, don't change that. But you're coming in and also trying to like install like kind of your culture, kind of like what you envision for Zanesville football. But he's also like, you can't change this, can't change that. It's kind of funny though, like,
Yeah,
how a school already has an established culture, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what attracted me to Zanesville. Coaching those guys at Capital University. I'm like, hey, these are tough, kind of blue collar, gritty kids. And the same thing when you think about Zanesville football in the past. That's kind of the team that when you got to line up against them, you're going to be in for a dogfight. Physical kids who played extremely hard with relentless effort. And so yeah, that's kind of what attracted me to the job. So. It was great to get my feet wet last year, and it was again, Coach Grandstaff kind of set the standard, built that culture here, and again, that's again what attracted me to this job was knowing, like, I'm not going to come in and build it from the ground up. It's a culture, it's a program that's been around for a while and been very successful for a very long time.
So you got plenty of coaching experience at a younger age. You mentioned that you coached at Capital University, where, I mean, you also went to school there. You played there, so that's really awesome. But then you had stops along the way at Upper Arlington. Amanda Clearcreek was your previous stop before coming to Zanesville. But was there a point during your time as an assistant with those schools where you kind of realized you were ready to be a head coach? Was there a moment? Was there just sort of an epiphany of like, I'm ready? Or was it just kind of like I mean, I'm sure you probably knew that you eventually wanted to become a head coach, but like, when did you realize you were ready to take that next step?
I don't know if you ever know you're officially ready, but throughout those stops, I think it all starts with the mentors you're around. Steve Dalton at Amanda Clearcreek during that time. He put a lot on my plate as a defensive coordinator, and that was very helpful in my development as a coach. While at Amanda Clearcreek, I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, so I was around it all. So I got the ability to at Amanda be the head track coach, at Amanda be the head wrestling coach. So those were huge steps in my progression to take that next step. When it comes down to it, I lean on my mentors, those coaches that are around that have been very successful throughout the state of Ohio. And I think over that last year at Amanda, I felt like I was ready to take that next step. Just kind of waiting on, like I talked about, Zanesville being a great place where the culture was already built. They're tough, gritty kids, and a place I would enjoy coaching. So I think at that point it was kind of waiting to find the right fit for me. But I really look back on my time at Amanda Clearcreek, having the chance to run the wrestling program, run the track and field program, because as a defensive coordinator, you're running the defensive side of the ball, involved in basically running that process and a weekly and yearly basis. But the ability to kind of take over some other programs and be the head man there and understand all the other boxes you have to check and all the other tasks that come with it, being a head coach, that was huge in my progression. And again, just, whether it's Steve Dalton at Amanda Clearcreek or my high school head coach at West Jefferson, Sean Bisher, it was kind of looking at those guys and looking at their progression and leaning on them when I thought it was time, or looking at different places where should I put my name in the hat there, kind of leaning on those mentors and those role models that kind of help guide me as well.
So you mentioned that you were a 3-sport athlete when you were in high school. I imagine you're probably a big proponent with your football players at Zanesville, like them also participating in multiple sports, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's especially just when you look at enrollment. Back in the day, Zanesville, Division I type school with a lot of kids, and just necessarily that's not who we are anymore. We gotta get everyone to play everything, and I was a wrestler, baseball guy, football guy, and you need it. You need all the kids at West Jeff, a small school, Division 5, Division 6 football school. You can't pick and choose. I'm a baseball, I'm only football guy. Like, if you want to be successful in all sports programs, you need your athletes to compete and be a part of everything. And I think that's something great here at Zanesville. Another young head coach of our basketball program, Cedric Harris, is doing a great job. We have a great relationship. Whether it's finding times to lift and work out together, to be able to share those kids, so kids aren't hey, I gotta go to basketball lifting, or I gotta go to football lifting. We do everything in our power to kind of be able to share those kids and share our time to make it valuable for our kids and efficient for our kids. Coach Jason Dilly is my wide receiver coach. He's also the head wrestling coach here at Zanesville. So I encourage, I push our kids to play multiple sports, and for me, it's building relationships with those other coaches. To kind of the kids see it. It's like, hey, Coach Harris, Coach Langermeier, Coach Dilly, Jason Smith, my associate head coach, just took the baseball job here. So that's huge for us. We're all kind of a tight knit group that, hey, all these coaches get along, they talk, they're on the same page. So that's huge for us. Kids see that, they don't feel like they're getting pulled from one sport to another. And again, being at the college ranks a little bit, and ask the kids, those college coaches, and we like to recruit kids who like to compete. And I tell our kids, like, football is a great sport. There's nothing else that's going to beat Friday night to underneath the lights. I mean, there's nothing that gets the heart rate going that's matched that for me emotionally in my life than Friday night football. But when you think about it, if you don't make the playoffs, you get a chance to play 40 games as a high school football player. And to be honest, that's not enough chances to compete. All right. I mean, if you want to be a competitor, if you want to be an athlete, you need to go play baseball, go play 25 games a year. You need to go play basketball 25 games a year. You need to go wrestle 40 wrestling matches every year. Don't limit yourself and just those 40 chances to compete in high school. Go compete in it all. And again, for our kids who look to play ball at the next level, I tell them, I'm like, that's huge for your development, huge for kind of your recruiting platform. When people at that level recruiting want to see athletes, they want to see multiple sport athletes that can go out and do it all. So again, I think relationships are huge, and we got something good going here. Just like I said, baseball coach, wrestling coach, basketball coach, all on the same page. 3 of them being on our football staff. I think it's huge because kids can't run from good culture. It doesn't matter, hey, I'm not playing football, I'm not playing basketball, because it's too hard. It's like, well, we got a good core group of guys here where it doesn't matter where you go, you're going to get coached up hard, or you're going to be expected to play with great discipline and effort. I feel really good about what we got going on here. There's no doubt about it.
So let's dive into year number 2 for you, your staff, and then 2023 for your team. So last year you were 3-7 in the regular season, but you're returning a bunch of guys, like we kind of mentioned at the top. You had a younger team last year, and so a year under their belt. Now you got a lot of kids coming back. What does your offense and defense look like this year? I mean, take me kind of through I guess each position group, kind of your quarterback room, skill positions up front, your defense, kind of the guys plugging up holes in the middle, the secondary. Like, who are some names that we should look out for this year? What are kind of the expectations for Zanesville Blue Devil football for 2023?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, offensively, we'll be very similar to what we did last year. It was great. I got to play college football with another Zanesville Blue Devil, Zach Clapper. He's been over at West Muskingum the last couple of years, but he's a Blue Devil through and through on that 2013 team. So the ability to get him over to kind of take over the offense for us, it has been great. Just kind of beefing up our staff and adding quality people to be around our kids. So offensively, we're going to be very similar to what we did last year. And to be honest, coming in so late last year, that was the one thing, talking with Coach Grandstaff, some of the other previous guys who are around the program, was like, hey, you don't necessarily have a quarterback. You're going to have to find one. And that was very intriguing for me. I like the challenge. And Coach Bisher at West Jefferson, my high school head coach, always did a great job finding that next quarterback. And a lot of times it was the best athlete on that previous year's team. Like, hey, we don't have a quarterback. We need to develop one. Let's take that best athlete, throw him back there, and kind of let him go to work. And luckily we were able to find that. Drew Doyle is our quarterback. He did a great job for us last year. First year, again, he'd been a running back, wide receiver type kid in the past, but extremely athletic, point guard on the basketball team. He's about 5'8", can dunk the basketball. So he's kind of a freak athlete. So we kind of lucked into it last year, convincing him to take on that role, because it's a huge role physically and leadership wise. But he did a great job for us last year. He through 6 weeks last year, had rushed for about 750 yards, thrown for about 500, and then we lost him week 6 to injury for the rest of the year. So, heading into week 6, we were 3-2 before losing him to injury, and so he was a big part of that early success for us. And again, just the ability to have a whole off season with him to help develop him physically in the weight room. He had a great off season. So we're excited to see what he does this year. He's a very dynamic player for us. And then we ran the ball a lot last year. He was basically for us a running back at the quarterback position. And with that, we had some great guys up front for us. And we bring back 4 out of 5 of those starters up front on the offensive line. So we're really going to lean on those guys up front to carry us. And I think that, a lot of leaders on our team, we just voted for captains, last week, and those 4 returning starters on the offensive line were all voted by their teammates to be captains. So speaks very highly of not necessarily always their physical abilities, but their leadership qualities as well. So great football players on that offensive line, and also great leaders who their teammates think very, very highly of. At the skill positions, wide receiver wise, we lost a couple guys last year. Dean Johnson, Xavier Sowers were seniors for us. We had a small senior class, but very, very skillful on the edge at the wide receiver position. So definitely looking for some guys to step up there this year for us. Return some guys with some good playing time though. Drake Tabler out there will be a senior for us. Played a lot of receiver for us last year. Did a great job. He'll be back kind of leading that charge out there for us. And that's kind of where we have a bunch of athletic dudes out there that can play on the perimeter. Just not much Friday night experience out of those guys. So we're trying our best and working really hard throughout camp here in July and August to put those guys in situations, so to get them ready and prepare them for Friday nights. And they're doing a great job for us so far. So I'm very optimistic about our wide receivers this year. Just a good core guys who don't have a bunch of Friday night experience, but we got 6 or 7 dudes that can play ball for us, and we're excited to see them come out on Friday nights and make some plays. Defensively for us, we'll be similar as we were last year. And again, those core guys we brought back on the offensive line up front play a lot of defense for us too. So that seems to be the strong point for us defensively this year. Will be our defensive line. Again, Cannon Mercer for us, defensive end last year, first team all league. Kid as a sophomore is going to be a guy that we're going to lean on defensively this year. There's no doubt about it. Linebacker position for us too. We bring back a couple kids who played a bunch for us last year. Sophomore Vaughn Pouncey and junior JJ Willett. Again, some young guys who got a lot of playing experience last year as a freshman and a sophomore. So you can already tell throughout July and August the game is starting to slow down for them compared to last year. They're playing at a much higher pace. And those are 2 guys. It always excites me when you're able to put 2 younger guys on the field and get them a lot of playing time in their younger years, because it's only going to help them out when they're juniors and seniors. So very, very, very happy with their play so far, and they're going to be very, very key players for us this year. There's no doubt about it. Defensive back wise, again, Dean Johnson last year and Xavier Sowers were huge pieces for us offensively at the wide receiver position. And they were key pieces for us in the defensive backfield as well. So good thing about it is we got to replace them at safety, but we got a good 5 or 6 guys who we feel comfortable about being able to roll in there. Whether it's Cameron Fink out at our strong safety position, who played there a bunch last year, played some linebacker for us last year. So a kid who's played a lot of football on Friday nights, and we're going to lean on him this year to kind of help us set the edge and be physical out there at that strong safety position. So again, 5 or 6 guys that we feel like we can roll in at our 2 or 3 safety positions, and then luckily we bring back both of our cornerbacks from last year. And again, that's the biggest thing. Those kids who got a bunch of Friday night experience coming back, the game always seems to slow down for them, having a year underneath their belt. So Kamarion Ruff will be kind of our strong side corner. Jay Geiger will be our boundary weak side corner. And again, those guys played probably 90% of our snaps for us last year at corner. So excited to have them back. Very athletic kids, physical on the perimeter. They're gonna do a great job for us this year, and a year underneath their belt is going to be huge. And excited to see how they develop throughout this offseason and let it show up on Friday nights now.
Coach, I really appreciate the time, man. This was great. I love the energy that you bring, and I really, truly believe that Blue Devil football is going to be a powerhouse in 2023. So I'm excited to see what you guys do. Best of luck this year, and thanks so much for joining us on Shot Callers today, man. This was great.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys having me.